joined right now by Independent Economist Julian Jessop. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Well, you're going to have a very busy week dealing with the fun and games of the budget. We're all going to have a very busy week, basically contacting airlines and people who can find us a house abroad. So we go abroad to try and find somewhere where we're not going to be taxed to the hill. We've got the CBI, the Confederation of British Industry conference today, right next to Parliament. We've got the Business Secretary's been speaking there. We've got Kemi Badenoch, the Tory leader, speaking there. And there's a real concern around business about they've just got no idea what is happening. They're worried about higher taxes, but an even bigger concern, just the people who are employed by those businesses, workers, about more taxes on us as well. What are you expecting to happen?
Well, I just find this absolutely surreal. If I was sitting down trying to design the worst possible budget and the worst possible process leading up to it, I'd pretty much come up with this.
Nailed it, Rachel. Nailed it.
It's extraordinary. I just pick two examples. First of all, everybody is clearly worried about the welfare bill spiralling out of control. But instead of announcing anything to tackle that bill, the latest suggestions are this is going to add maybe £15 billion a year to that bill.
They couldn't do a £5 billion cut earlier in the year, but they're going to add £15 billion, even though everyone said, including the government, that the welfare bill needs to come down.
Absolutely. And then the second point is that, OK, if you're going to spend more money, what taxes are you going to raise to cover that gap? Now, if it was necessary to increase spending, then there is maybe a case for a simple, straightforward increase in, say, income tax. But no, they're not going to do that. They're going to raise income tax in a complicated, stealthy way by extending the freeze on tax thresholds. But they're going to top that up with what they're describing as a smorgasbord. But we all know is a dog's breakfast of smaller tax increases that may or may not raise any money, but will certainly deter people from spending, investing and saving in the UK economy. So it's just a package that is almost bound to backfire. Yeah. The markets won't like it. It will increase uncertainty for businesses in the future, not ease it. And pretty much everybody in the country is going to end up spending more tax, paying more tax than they would otherwise.
Well, this is the thing, but it's fascinating. Economists seem to be across the board, left and right, saying, look, but the answer is as you say, if you need to, bring more money in, you can't borrow anymore, and if you think their spending is necessary, if that's the way you're going to go, then the fairest and the biggest fundraising way and easiest way of doing it is an across the board, very open and honest increase in income tax. And she was going to do that at one point. She put out the story, well, her people put out the story themselves and then pulled it back again. We understand because of, Labour backbenchers unhappy, Office of Budget Responsibility. We don't know what their thoughts were on it. But the idea was that working people on average incomes and below average incomes, they would actually get that money back with the national insurance going down. But pensioners, savers, high owners, they would end up paying more money. So they kind of could have done the wealth tax. But I'm assuming it was the optics of it, that at the end of the day, they said we're not going to put up income tax. And even if people were not a penny different in their taxes for the average person, let's face it, we know perfectly well that every single big board and every advert at the next election from Reform and the Tories and the Lib Dems would say they put up taxes.
Well, there's another problem in there with this whole process is, and I hesitate to do this, but I think Treasury officials and others briefing the media have simply been lying. So they claim that they claim that the plan to raise income tax was dropped because the OBR had come up with some more favourable economic forecasts. But you only have to look at the timetable the Office of Budget Responsibility publishes on their website. Yeah. So the key forecasts that would have included any more favourable economic assumptions were available at the end of October. Yeah. The new tax plan to raise the basic rate income tax came out in early November. So the idea that they dropped this because they had better OBR forecasts simply does not...
It's a load of nonsense. It was because Labour backbenchers were freaking out about losing their seats. What do you make of the two-child benefit cap set to be scrapped? We're talking, I think, £3.5 billion over the Parliament. It largely goes to families who are not working. This whole nonsense that these working families, vast majority of families are not working, and where there is someone in work, it's one person and they're not working full-time. Oh, what a surprise, they've got no money and they can't afford to feed their 5 kids. But I'm not entirely sure why that's my problem as a taxpayer and why I have to pay for it when they could both, mum and dad, go out and get paid work like everyone else does.
Well, actually, I've got mixed feelings about scrapping the cap, but I think that some of what you said is actually unfair. A lot of people who do claim benefits are in work,
No, no, but they're not.
and people.
The stats say they're in work. They're not. They're a couple. Okay, there are single parents as well. By the way, I've got loads of friends and family who are single parents who also work full time. But they are often it's two-parent families, and mum doesn't work and dad works part-time. Well, I'm so sorry if you can't afford 5 or 6 kids on that salary. You need to either have fewer kids or get another job.
Well, consider the situation where somebody is in work and they happen to have 3 kids, and then for whatever reason, not their own fault, they lose their job.
Yeah.
And they then require benefits. Are you then saying that
well, they should get another job? No, I'm genuine. There are solutions. Get another job. And there's more urgency for you to get. Look, you might be out of work for a bit, and that's difficult. Times are going to be hard. Yeah, they are.
Okay.
But that happens to people with 2 kids as well.
Debate here. But what I would say is that you can't have an anti-poverty strategy that is based purely on giving people more money. I think it has to be more to it than that.
Well, it has
it's
to.
Rather like the old thing about teaching somebody to fish, rather than just giving them a fish.
Well, also Gordon Brown
give somebody
tried
a fish they can eat for a day, teach them to fish, then they're going to be okay for the rest of their lives.
Gordon Brown tried that. There was a whole theory under New Labour. We'll just throw more and more money at people on low incomes, and then everything will be fine. No, children didn't get any better off. Parents didn't do a better job. The thing that gets kids out of poverty is mums and dads working. Oh, also mums and dads staying together. I mean, again, if you really want to help kids in poverty, keeping mums and dads together is a very, very good way of doing it. What do you make of just the likes of the Zach Polanskis? And I mean, you get this a lot from the left in the Labour Party. You get this from the Green Party, the Lib Dems, everyone. They're completely and utterly sort of, sod the bond markets. No one elected them. We can just keep borrowing. What's the issue? What do you make of that attitude?
I did watch Zach Polanski's interview on the BBC on Sunday morning. It was economically literate from beginning to end. And in particular, this point about dismissing the role of the bond markets. I mean, the reality is that if the government borrows lots of money from somebody, in the same way if a household borrows money or anybody else borrows money, the people that you borrow that money from are going to be interested to know what you're going to do with that money and whether you're going to be able to repay it. So the idea you completely ignore bond markets is clearly nonsense, and that applies to the government just as much as it does to anybody else. He does seem to have this idea, though, that the government is somehow different because they can tax people to death or print more money if they want to. But those policies clearly come with costs. If you tax people to death, then people leave the country. They don't create the wealth in the first place. And if you just print loads of money, then all you do is create inflation.
I mean, if
there are no free lunches here.
Yeah, if printing more money made our country rich, wow, would we be? I mean, we'd all be sitting in the sauna right now in our alpine retreat. Having just having just finished a sailing holiday, because we've been printing money pretty much solidly since 2008, and it's not worked out that well for us, has it? 10:48 is the time. Fantastic as always to talk to you, Independent Economist Julian Jessop. Sam Armstrong, quick response to that.
Yeah, but I want to go back to the point about parenting, because I genuinely believe this country has an epidemic of bad parents that aren't doing it right. And actually, it is not the government's job to make up for good parents and bad parents. Actually, what we need to turn around and tell them is, look, do the right thing as a parent, stay with your other half, raise your kids together, make sure they go to bed on time. If we did that, if you actually cared about kids and the future
Turn up to
of all
school
kids,
every day,
then we would have a national education campaign to ensure good parenting of every kid. And you hear silence, absolute crickets from this government.
Well, because you mustn't judge. You mustn't judge and how people parent. That's what people don't know. Apart from the fact that there are things that work, and it's like someone saying, I eat chocolate cake to diet, and it absolutely works. Well, whatever works for you. No. Look, we talk about parenting non-stop on this show. It is the number one issue. If you're looking at worklessness, you're looking at kids on benefits, you're looking at everything else. You are talking about that. You're talking about parenting. End of.